tie and is smoking a pipe are rolled onto stage. She re-entered wearing a large hat, fur coat, white gloves, and a big purse, taking the book out of her purse and placing it on his desk.
Hello, how can I help you, Mrs.
Bellman? And you are Mr. Plat. Ant Plat, correct, young man?
Yes, ma'am. How can I help you? In fact, how did you get my address?
Oh, well, it's listed. So, if you were to die, would you prefer disease or injury?
Excuse me?
I suppose disease would be too hard to come in contact with, not practical.
I don't mean to be rude, but why?
You're an author, aren't you? Yes, you are. Oh, and the plate. Yes, the plate. Now, fire or drowning?
I'm confused, Mrs. Bellman. What is this all about?
Well, yes, the plate. It broke, obviously. I wouldn't be here and, you know. So, ideas. You kill characters, don't you? Perhaps something romantic. Ball gowns, music, arsenic. Is that romantic? Well, you'll help with the details.
I'll help with the details? How do ideas for how to die connect to a broken plate? Romantic? For Christ's sake, who do you want to kill?
He slams the pipe down on the desk.
I'm a very superstitious woman, young man. When I went to my husband's funeral, I already knew he was dead. Well, I already knew previously when he would die. My favorite porcelain figurine broke a week earlier. Now my favorite plate has shattered its antique, you see. My ma's, then her ma's, well, was her ma's, now it's mine. Well, was mine. I suppose it'll be Sissy's now. But what's the hip way to go nowadays?
The hip way. I guess the whole hang yourself in a closet thing.
Mr. Plat. Ant. How old do you think I am? Next option, please.
How old do I think you are? Well, that is a good question, isn't it? Quite the imagination. A plate breaks and someone is apparently waiting for Dickinson's carriage to come and take them to Death's Mansion. You think you're going to die, don't you? Yes, now I get it. You're asking for ways to die, Mrs. Bellman. Do you plan to kill yourself?
Don't be so loud now, Ant. It's not that shocking. Someone will hear you and call the popo before I can go out with a bang.
Mrs. Bellman, how do you even know this is right? A plate is a plate. No need to start planning a funeral.
He reaches for the phone.
Not a funeral. That's already done. Just the whole sticky part. Now, I was thinking something peaceful yet stunning.
She pushes the phone off of the desk into the trash can and in the process his pipe as well. He tries to reach for the door without her noticing.
Peaceful yet stunning.
She blocks him.
Well, what do you think? Ideas? Come now, Ant, you're a well-known author. I was thinking perhaps sleeping pills that kick in just as I'm entering a ballroom down the elegant grand stairs. OD, of course. But not distasteful like that Ledger fellow or some rock star. Good God, no grace, I tell you.
No grace.
So, no sleeping pills then. Well, all right. I really thought that was a good one. What about something explosive?
Like a meth lab exploding?
He's reaching for the doorknob.
A little violent. Are there any close by? I mean, really, all I'd have to do is walk in and distract anyone working with some funny-looking objects. Liquids, probably. That would be my best bet.
You know, Mrs. Bellman, I think this is a bad idea. A very bad idea.
You hear a click as she locks the door.
Really? Well, best move on to other trains of thought. Yes, trains! I'm sure I can find a station. Oh, how poetic, like Anna Karenina. Oh, this is getting away from the practical, though.
Practical thought, yes. That's good, Mrs. Bellman. You see, the plate broke, but no porcelain figurines did, so it must be an omen for something else. Maybe you're going to win the lottery.
No, Andy. Lottery is far too violent a way to die. Maybe I could leave the hairdryer in the bathtub with me and start the water.
Mrs. Bellman, won't your children miss you?
Well, I'll tell them where to find me. Fred. Oh, young man, maybe you are right, though. This is too rash a way.
No, that's not what Mrs. Bellman, what will your husband think?
Skydiving! But he'd agree that it is well past that time in my life. Oh, what about carbon monoxide? I could go in the same style as Sylvia Plath. Oh, but wait, was that Anne Sexton? She did write that nice poem. This could be a form of respect. No, but this really should be about me. It's about my passing.
Dan digs in the trash can trying to pull the phone out. He keeps burning his hand on the pipe.
You're passing, exactly. Don't you see the gravity of this situation, Mrs. Bellman? Please, you can't take this lightly. Why don't we go to someone who can better handle this than I can?
You're right.
Ant stops digging, stands up straight, and fixes his suit jacket.
I'm right? So you now understand why this is crazy.
Of course.
Thank God.
Young man, I respect your support.
Of course, Wait, what do you mean by that exactly?
I should pick the absolute best way for me to go. It can't be based on someone else. So you are going to help me come up with my own ending. Isn't that right?
When did I say that? How did you come up with that?
You just said it.
It doesn't matter anymore, Miss Bellman. This is obviously what you want, so I think jumping off a bridge would be peaceful and stunning. Just don't block the traffic.
You would just tell an old woman to jump off a bridge. Not a second thought, no conscience. How were you raised with such a mind?
You said you were going to die. You made it sound like there was no other option.
So that's it. Kill off the sick baby cow. Feed the baby to the wolves. Not even a chance. Why, Ant, how could you be so heartless?
But Mrs. Bellman, I'm sorry.
Rightfully so, young man. I'm only 76. I can still walk and climb stairs and feed myself and use the toilet. I can still pick what shirts to wear and do my own hair. I'm young, goddammit, I'm young!
Mrs. Bellman, everything will be all right. It was just a plate,
An antique plate, Ant. Oh, God, I'd trade all my good china to fix that one plate. Do you think if I bring food to the homeless shelter until I turn 90, we can forget all about this?
Well, I suppose.
Oh, don't lie, Ant. You know you do. Oh, that's okay. This isn't it for me. I know it isn't. It can't be. Maybe I imagined the dish breaking.
Mrs. Bellman, do you often see things that don't happen? Because if so...
Do you really think I'm crazy, Ant? Do you? This sweet old thing in front of you? Me crazy? Me dead?
Well, it was just
She grabs his hands. He keeps backing away from her until he's blocked by his desk behind him.
I'll trade you my life savings. Anything. I'll give you anything. I'll wash your clothes.
He climbs over his desk.
You can have my house, my entire porcelain collection, along with my antique plates, jewelry pieces, and all I ask is you leave me my photo albums, plaid skirt, and car so I have somewhere to sleep.
Just a plate.
An antique plate!
He slowly rounds the table, handing her a handkerchief from his pocket.
Yes, Mrs. Bellman, an antique plate.
Doesn't matter now, does it, Ant?
Don't say that, Mrs. Bellman. We don't know that. You seem very healthy. I can't imagine you...
Don't be silly now, Ant. It's too late for me. At least now I can plan the best way for me to go. Most people don't even get that, you know? Most people just die. They don't get to prepare for it. Don't get to go the way they prefer. They can't plan for how it affects everything. They can't plan for how it affects everything else either. The bills, the wills, the people. Oh, God, the people.
Yes, the people?
Yes, the people, Anne. Oh, how will Sissy handle this? You know she is the sweetest thing. She has my 2 grandkids, you know, Abby and Tommy. They're 7 twins. Adorable, adorable. They always come into the kitchen with me when I prepare fruit for them. Grapes are their favorite. I peel the skin and take out the seeds. They sneak a few from the bowl I put them in on the counter. From the bowl I put them in on the counter before I bring it to them in the living room. When they were little, I rocked them on my knee, you see, and they just yawned and got ready and sleepy, and how I'll miss them.
They sound wonderful. You have plenty of time with them, I'm sure.
Well, that's sweet of you to say, but I'm afraid you're wrong. I fought with their father all the time, and he finally took them from my house. My mother watches them now. His mother watches them now. My sissy, she defended me to the end, you know. The kids, they come over on their own now. They just pop in. They live down the street, though, so it's not so hard. That's how my porcelain figurine broke, you see. Tommy was holding it, but his hands, they weren't big enough.
That's the same figure that...
I'm afraid so, Anne, I'm afraid so. But now I can see how wet with tears their faces will be.
Mrs. Bellman, at least you know how much they loved you.
And you, Mr. Platt? Oh, goodness me, I'll scar you.
She grabs his tie, pulling him forward.
Well,
She releases the tie, pushing him backwards. He trips over a chair.
No, no excuses, you'll be so hurt.
I'm not sure that that's the right...
Mentally scarred. You're going to have problems after this.
Probably.
You'll forever live knowing you helped orchestrate my death.
I may end up with nightmares.
Although you may learn to take some pride in it someday.
Now we're straying from reality again.
But what if you never write again because of me?
Sad but true.
But practically speaking, we both know this was necessary, you know.
No, that's just you.
Oh, how guilty you'll feel.
Already there.
I am sorry, Aunt.
Too late for that.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No worries, Mrs. Bellman.
Oh, thank you, Aunt.
Mrs. Bellman, if I may, perhaps you could glue the play back together.
Well, I never thought about cheating, Dad.
Really? That's why you came to a writer, isn't it? We do that every time we write words to paper.
I do suppose that's true.
So you know, Mrs. Bellman, I would rethink all of this if I were you.
Well, perhaps I will. Just for your sake, Aunt.
Thank you, Mrs. Bellman. And you know, Mrs. Bellman, if you're serious about this...
Yes, Aunt.
I'll write about you.
Oh, that would be so very nice, young man. As a writer, how do you imagine me dying, Mr. Platt?
To be honest, all I see is an antique plate break.
Is that how I go, then?
I've been confused since you walked in that door, Mrs. Bellman. Perhaps this time you could explain.
Why should I explain, Aunt?
Why shouldn't you?
Because an ending would give you nothing to imagine. That's the best part to an end, isn't it, Mr. Platt? Getting to imagine the end, even if it ends up somehow being in a way you never planned. I think I would have liked to be an author.
So, nice old women could come to you about killing themselves?
No, so I could write about my antique plate. Have a nice day, young man. Maybe another time.
She leaves, slamming the door with dramatic flair.
I hope so, Mrs. Bellman. I hope so.